Dear PlotX Stories, I am Liam Covington, and this is my story. This is the story of the night I stopped being straight. Or maybe the night I finally admitted I never was. It happened in a two-person tent in the middle of a thunderstorm with my best friend of 12 years. His name is Noah, and this is how we ruined everything and saved everything all in the same breath. Let me paint you a picture. Noah Kincaid and I have been glued at the hip since we were 14 years old. He was the jock. 6'2", messy brown hair, a jaw that could cut glass, shoulders so wide he had to turn sideways to fit through narrow doorways. I was the smart one, leaner, darker hair, green eyes that girls always said looked intense. Like I was thinking about something profound when really I was just zoning out. We were both hot in that annoying, unaware way college guys are. And we were both aggressively, vocally, almost comically straight. Noah had a new girl every other month. Different names, different hair colors, same pattern. He'd chase, catch, get bored, move on. I had a 3-year on and off thing with a girl named Mia. She was sweet, predictable, safe. We talked about women like they were the only stars in our sky. We never once looked at each other that way. Never. Not once in 12 years. Until the camping trip. It was Noah's idea. He called it a man's trip. Just us, a cooler of beer, a cheap tent that had seen better days, and a lake that looked like someone had photoshopped it into reality. We were both 26. Life was getting heavy. His dad had gotten sick that spring. Cancer. The slow kind that makes you watch someone disappear piece by piece. My job was eating my soul, 40 hours a week of spreadsheets and fluorescent lights, and a boss who called me champ in a way that made me want to punch a wall. We needed to get loud, get drunk, and get away from everything that expected things from us. We drove 4 hours into the backcountry. No signal. No people. Just endless pines, the smell of wet earth and pine needles, and a sky so full of stars it made your chest ache with how small you felt under it. Noah drove. I rode shotgun with my feet on the dashboard. We sang along to terrible pop songs from high school. He reached over and shook my knee during the chorus. Normal. Friendly, brotherly, nothing to see here. We set up the camp as the sun bled orange and purple across the sky. The tent was a tight fit, one of those cheap dome tents from a big box store that claimed it fit 4 people, but really meant 4 people who were okay with being stacked like firewood. Our sleeping bags were practically touching. Cozy, Noah joked, flexing as he hammered a stake into the ground with unnecessary force. He was already shirtless by then. Said he wanted to tan the last rays before the sun disappeared. I didn't look. Okay, I looked. His back was a map of muscles, shoulders wide, waist narrow, that V shape that makes clothes hang differently on some men. I told myself I was just jealous of his gym routine. I told myself a lot of things that weekend that turned out to be lies. By 8 p.m., we had a fire roaring and a bottle of whiskey between us. Not beer, whiskey. The kind that burns going down and then blooms into a hot flower in your stomach, spreading warmth to your fingers and your cheeks and that quiet part of your brain that usually keeps you from doing stupid things. We drank and we drank and we drank. To being idiots forever, Noah said, raising the bottle to the sky. To not dying out here, I clinked my plastic cup against the glass. The first sip made me cough. The second sip went down easier. By the 5th sip, the world had gone soft around the edges. Noah's laughter got louder, boomier, more unguarded. My usual walls, the ones I'd built brick by brick since I was a teenager, got lower and lower until they were barely there at all. We started talking about real things. Not sports, not work, not the usual surface stuff we threw at each other like softballs. Real things. His fear of becoming his father, of inheriting not just the cancer, but the silence. The way his dad never said I love you unless he was 3 drinks in. My fear of never feeling like enough. Like no matter what I achieved or who I dated or how many boxes I checked, there would always be a hollow space inside me that nothing could fill. He put his hand on my knee to make a point about something I've now forgotten. A casual bro touch. The kind of touch that means nothing between straight guys. But his hand was warm, heavy, calloused in a way that reminded me he worked with his hands, that he built things, that he was solid in a way I had never allowed myself to really feel. and his hand stayed there for 2 seconds too long. Maybe 3. Long enough for the air between us to change. I didn't move it. "You're shivering," he said. The fire had died down to orange embers. The mountain air was sharp as a blade, cutting right through my thin flannel. "I'm fine," I lied. He stood up, swaying slightly, the whiskey making his movements loose and uncoordinated. He unzipped the tent and gestured inside. "Get in. I'll grab more wood in a minute." I crawled into the tent. It was dark except for the weak, sickly glow of a battery lantern hanging from the ceiling hook. The nylon walls were damp with condensation. I pulled off my flannel and then my undershirt because the whiskey made me run hot. Because my skin felt like it was wrapped in wool. Now I was shirtless too. We were both sitting cross-legged on our sleeping bags, knees almost touching, the space between us shrinking by the minute. I could see the lines of his chest in the dim light. The hard peaks, the soft dips, the trail of dark hair below his navel disappearing into his waistband. I swallowed hard and looked away. Looked back. Couldn't help it. "Still cold?" he asked. His voice was lower than usual. Husky. Like the whiskey had scraped it raw. "A little," I said. "Come here, idiot." He opened his sleeping bag like a blanket, spreading it wide. "Body heat. Don't make it weird." I should have laughed. Made a joke. Called him a dork and punched his arm and rolled to my side of the tent. That's what the old Liam would have done. The straight Liam. The safe Liam. Instead, I slid over. His body was like a furnace. All that muscle and blood and heat radiating off him in waves. My bare back pressed against his bare chest. He wrapped an arm over my waist. Casual, like we'd done it 100 times. Except we hadn't. Not like this. His breath hit the back of my neck. Whiskey and pine, and something underneath that was just him. Just Noah, the smell I'd been breathing in for 12 years without ever really noticing. "Your heart's racing," he whispered. "It's the cold." Liar. That word hung in the dark between us. I felt his thumb move against my ribs. A slow, small stroke. Not a bro pat. Not a friendly squeeze. A caress. My stomach flipped. Every nerve in my body woke up at once, like someone had flipped a switch I didn't even know existed. My skin tingled everywhere he touched. Everywhere he wasn't touching, but could have been. "Noah," I started. My voice came out strange. Thinner than I intended. More like a question than a name. "Don't," he cut me off. His voice cracked. "Don't say my name like that unless you mean it." I turned around. In that tiny tent, with the rain just beginning to tap on the nylon roof, our faces were inches apart. The lantern light caught his eyes, dark, scared, and burning all at once. He wasn't drunk anymore. Neither was I. The alcohol had just removed the fear, stripped away the layers of performance and masculinity and shoulds and should-nots. What was left was pure, terrifying, undeniable want. "I've never looked at the guy before," he breathed. "Not once. Not in 26 years. But tonight, when you took off your shirt, I couldn't breathe, Liam. I couldn't fucking breathe." My hand moved on its own. I touched his face. His stubble scratched my palm, that rough sandpaper feel that I had never thought about before, but suddenly couldn't stop thinking about. Neither could I admitted. And that was the moment the straight world we had built for 12 years collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. He kissed me first. Or maybe I kissed him. It doesn't matter now. What matters is that it wasn't soft. It wasn't hesitant. It wasn't the gentle, careful first kiss you see in movies. It was a collision. Teeth and tongue and the low, desperate groan that came from somewhere primal, somewhere deep in his chest that I'd never heard before. His hands were everywhere. My back, my neck, my waist, pulling me closer like he could crawl inside my skin if he just held on tight enough. I pulled his hips against mine. The sleeping bags twisted into knots beneath us. The lantern tipped over and went dark. We were both topless, skin on skin in the blackness of that tent. Sweat and rain and the smell of campfire smoke tangled in our hair. He bit my lower lip, just hard enough to make me gasp, just hard enough to make my hips buck against his. Then he pulled back, forehead against mine, both of us panting like we'd run a mile. "We can stop," he said. His hands were shaking against my waist. "If you want to stop, we stop. Right now. No questions. No consequences. We can pretend this never happened." I answered by pushing him onto his back and straddling his hips. I looked down at him in the dark. I could barely see his face, just the outline of his jaw, the gleam of his eyes, the rise and fall of his bare chest. This beautiful, strong, straight man and looking up at me like I was the only real thing in the entire world. "I don't want to stop," I said. "I've never wanted anything more." What happened next wasn't a performance. It wasn't porn. It wasn't anything like the videos I'd secretly watched late at night and then deleted from my browser history, telling myself it was just curiosity, just boredom, just anything other than what it actually was. This was two best friends learning a new language with their hands. Every touch was a word. Every kiss was a sentence. Every moan was a paragraph in a story we didn't know we were writing. I traced the lines of his chest, the hard peaks of his pectorals, the soft dips between his ribs, the ridges of his abdomen that clenched under my fingertips. He shivered like I was touching something electric. Then he flipped us over, pinning my wrists above my head. The tent ceiling was wet with condensation, and drops fell on my face like cold little secrets, mixing with the sweat on my skin. "Tell me what you like," he whispered against my collarbone. His lips were warm. His breath was hot. "I don't know," I admitted. "I've never done this with a man. Neither have I. So we learned together." He kissed down my neck. Slow. Deliberate. Like he was memorizing every inch of me with his mouth. When he hit the spot where my neck met my shoulder, I made a sound I didn't recognize. A sound that came from somewhere deep and embarrassing and raw. He smiled against my skin. I could feel it. "Found it," he murmured. Then he kissed lower. My chest. My sternum. My stomach. Each kiss was a question. Am I doing this right? Do you want this? Should I keep going? And each answer was a moan I couldn't hold back, a gasp I couldn't swallow, and an arch of my back that said yes, yes, yes without words. When he reached the waistband of my jeans, he stopped. He looked up at me. In the darkness, I could just barely make out his expression. Asking, hoping, terrified. I nodded. I didn't trust my voice. The rain drowned out every sound except our breathing and the wet slide of skin and the soft, impossible noises he pulled out of me with his hands and his mouth. I won't describe every act. Some things are too precious for words, and some things are none of the internet's business. But I will say this. He was gentle in ways no woman had ever been. He was curious. He was reverent. He touched me like I was something sacred, something to be worshipped, not just used and discarded. And when I let him touch me the same way in return, he wept. Not cried. Wept. Silent tears that slid down his cheeks and onto my fingers as I cupped his face. I kissed them away one by one. Salt and rain and something that tasted like freedom. I didn't know it could feel like this, he said. His voice was raw, scraped hollow. I didn't know I was allowed to want you. Afterwards, we lay tangled in the damp sleeping bag. His arm was under my head. My leg was hooked over his thigh. His other hand traced lazy patterns on my back, spirals and circles and shapes I couldn't name. For 5 perfect minutes, there was no guilt. No shame. No tomorrow. Just the sound of his heartbeat under my ear, steady and strong, and the rain on the roof, and the quiet, fragile peace of 2 people who had finally stopped lying. Then reality crawled back in. Noah sat up suddenly. He pulled on his shirt the first time he'd covered himself all night. The fabric stuck to his still damp skin. This was a mistake, he said. His voice wasn't angry. It was worse than angry. It was terrified. Small. The voice of a little boy who had just been caught doing something he knew he'd get punished for. I sat up too. Cold flooded the space where his body had been, rushing in like water through a broken dam. "Don't," I said. "Don't do that." "Do what? Be honest?" He ran a hand through his messy hair, tugging at the roots. "Liam, I'm not gay. I can't be. My dad would—" "Your dad isn't in this tent," I snapped. The words came out harder than I meant them to, but I didn't take them back. "I am. And you just spent an hour touching me like I was the air you needed to breathe. Your hands are still shaking. Your eyes are still red. So don't you dare stand there and call that a mistake." He looked at me. For a second, just a second, the wall came down again. His lip trembled. His jaw worked like he was chewing on glass. "Then what do we call it?" he whispered. I took his hand. I pressed it to my still bare chest, right over my heart, which was still pounding like a trapped bird. "Call it a start," I said. "Or call it nothing. But don't call it a lie." He broke then. All the macho armor, all the straight bro performance, all the years of watching what he said and how he walked and who he looked at for a fraction of a second too long. It all shattered. He pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't breathe, his face buried in my neck, his whole body shaking. And he sobbed. Big, ugly man sobs that came from somewhere deeper than grief. I held him. I stroked his hair, that messy brown hair I'd watched blow in the wind for 12 years. I whispered the things no one had ever said to him. "You're not broken. You're not wrong. You're not disgusting. You're just Noah. And I love you." He pulled back, eyes red and swollen, nose running, face a mess of tears and snot and relief. "I love you too," he said. "I think I always have. I just dressed it in different words. Called it friendship. Called it brotherhood. Called it anything except what it actually was." We didn't have sex again that night. We just talked. For hours. About what this meant for us, for our families, for our futures. About the girls we'd have to let down gently. Mia and whoever Noah had been texting before we left. About the world that might never understand. The coworkers who would whisper. The strangers who would stare. But also about the future. A small apartment with too many plants. A dog with a stupid name. Mornings with coffee and arguments about who left the toothpaste cap off. A life where we didn't have to pretend anymore. We woke up to gray dawn light filtering through the tent walls. The rain had stopped. Birds were arguing in the trees. Noah was already looking at me. He smiled, that same goofy, crooked smile from when we were 14 years old. The one that had made me feel something I couldn't name back then and still couldn't name now. Only now it meant something else entirely. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I said back. I'm still scared. "Me too." But I'm not taking it back. He leaned in and kissed me. Soft this time. Slow. A promise wrapped in lips and morning breath, and the quiet courage of a man who had spent his whole life running from himself and had finally decided to stop running. We packed up the tent in silence, folded the sleeping bags, kicked dirt over the fire pit, drove home in silence. But his hand was on my thigh the whole 4 hours, warm and solid and real. And when we finally stopped at a gas station somewhere off the highway, he bought 2 coffees and a pack of gum and a bag of chips we'd eat before we made it back to the on-ramp. Then he looked at me over the roof of the car and said, "So, do I get to call you my boyfriend now, or is there a waiting period?" I laughed so hard I snorted coffee out my nose. He laughed too. And for a moment, standing there in the fluorescent glow of a gas station at 11 in the morning, surrounded by nothing and everything, we were just 2 guys who had finally figured out what they meant to each other. Dear PlotX Stories, that was 6 years ago. Noah and I share a closet now. Literally. His flannels hang next to my hoodies. His boots are scattered by the door where I always trip over them. He still leaves the toothpaste cap off. I still leave my coffee cups everywhere. We fight about stupid things and make up in stupid ways. We still go camping every summer. We still drink too much whiskey. But the tent is bigger now, and we don't pretend to be just friends anymore. People ask us when we turned gay. We tell them we didn't turn anything. We just finally stopped looking away. And sometimes the most beautiful thing in the world isn't a girl in a sundress or a guy with a six-pack or any of the things we were told to want. Sometimes it's your best friend's hand in yours in the dark during a storm, when you both decide to be brave enough to stop lying. So if you're out there listening to this, sitting in your own tent, metaphorical or real, don't wait for lightning to strike. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the right amount of alcohol or a sign from the universe. Be the lightning. Be the sign. Be brave enough to reach across the small, terrifying space between you and the person you've been pretending not to love. This was Liam Covington, and that was my story.
PlotX Stories.